So good morning ladies, just wait for a few minutes while I just sort out my other source of information so I can see what's going on. That's lovely, and then I will be able to see comments as they come in, if people do come in, and if they don't, then that's absolutely fine, because I appreciate that life can be quite busy. I know one more thing I need to do. That should be lovely. Okay, so let me just swap back to that. Let's minimise that one. There we are. Excellent. So I don't know who's come in, because someone could let me know, but it looks like I might have at least someone watching us today. So a couple of weeks ago I suggested that we might have a play with some of the other products that are around in the market, and Pentart brought out some antiquing gels around Christmas time, and I had lots of time to play with those. And then more recently Stamperia have brought out these, which are vintage patinas, and I thought we'd have a play to see where they go, what they do, whether they work together, whether you really need both of them in your stash, so that we don't waste our hard-earned money, basically. Good morning, Anthony. Thank you so much for joining me. Good morning, Agnieszka. Again, thank you for spending some time with me this morning. I know that you showed a very helpful video with the vintage patinas, but we haven't really had one with the antiquing gels, and I thought that it might be nice to just have a play together and see where we were up to with them. Whether they work together, whether you need them, what the colour differences are, and then you can make obviously an informed choice about which colours, whether you want a lot, etc. Good morning, Christine. Thank you for joining. Hello, Vasilis. Thank you. That's a really lovely surprise this morning. We are literally just going to have a play today. I'm not making a project. It is about showing the uses of them. Agnieszka, I love both of them too, and I personally think they both have a place in our crafty stash, but you know, not everyone is fortunate enough to be able to afford everything, and there are some crossovers. The colours are different, but yeah, across the ranges, so you can have a go with what you want. Hello, Claire. I hope you're well and that Wales is reasonably sunny today. Manchester is a bit dreary. So I just spent a little bit of time last night making some texture surfaces, because the joy really of these products is that they will sit into the crevices and all of the nooks and the crannies. You can just use them to cover everything and wipe back on your wipe back most, but I do think that the joy really is having nooks and crannies. So I've neutralised everything, and all I did was take some of the Pentart modelling paste, put it on some MDF hearts that I had lying around, scratched in some lines to resemble tree bark. Thank you, Vasilis, for that really useful tip, because could I find my Stamperia wood graining tool? No, but that technique works well, and I've heat dried it as well, which has given me lots of lumps and bumps, and that was intentional. If you don't want lumps and bumps with your modelling paste, then let it dry naturally, but you know, that's what I've done to get more texture, because I think that will help with what we're doing. And then I've just given everything a coat of chalky creamy white paint, so we've got a very neutral base to work with to start with. So I hope that that's okay. So in we have got some browns across the ranges, and we have a black. So we're going to start with the browns. to see where we're going, so that we can see the differences and the colours. And we're going to keep this reasonably simple because I think that that is quite helpful. So is the ochre from Pentart the same as the rust from Stamperia? And the answer is clearly no. So this is the ochre, which we're just going to pop in to here. So we're going to pop a little bit up here, but it gives you a beautiful mellow yellow colour. If you don't want, and you could just leave it, cover the whole thing as you would a paint, but if you just take a damp cloth and some water, and you can then wipe it back. Once it's set, you won't wipe it back. So you can see I've got lots more colour in the crevices, and I've lifted it back, so my texture is now back on showing. Good morning, Maz, thank you for joining me. So this one is the Vintage Patina Rust. Their textures are very similar and the use is pretty much the same. So let's just add some of this. I'm going to deliberately go over the boundary for there. Okay, so there we are, and it's rinse and repeat. So I'm sorry if this is going to be a little bit repetitive, but I think it's the easiest way of showing the differences. And if we lift it back, now to my mind this is really, this rust is actually beautiful, but it's very much like the terracotta pots that you get in the UK. So Chantal, yes, the answer to your question is absolutely, there is a difference. The pots are 150 mils and the patinas are 50 mils. The pots are about £6–7, and the vintage antiquing paste are around £6. So for your money, yes, you do get more in the pot than you do in the tube. If you're going to be upcycling furniture, then I think the pots are the way to go, because obviously you will use a lot more if you're upcycling a furniture project. But if you're just doing, but if you're doing mixed media pieces, then actually it probably doesn't matter that much, does it? Because you're not going to be using a huge amount more of the product. A little does go a long way. So this is the Pentart brown. So this one is here. So I just think that actually this is an easy way of showing people the differences in where we're going with this. There we are. So we've got some brown there. There we are. So absolutely the colours are different, and that was one of the reasons why I thought that I would put the two together and actually show us the difference. So remember, on here we've got Pentart ochre, the vintage patina from Stamperia in the rust. I've gone back to the brown. You can see that really is a very dark, very dark, much darker brown colour here. Okay, so that one can go over there. So we've got a dark brown there, and then we have a colour called umbre. The dark brown is lovely, particularly if you want a wood effect. It is all about what you're wanting to do with them, I think, at the end of the day. Let's not cross-contaminate our pots. But I think it's quite helpful to see the differences. So this is the umbre. Which is a darker brown, and there is a difference between them. So there we are. We'll just give that a little bit of a wipe. Yeah, they do. They've got the what's called brown, and then we've got this umbre, which is definitely a black brown. I think you can see here the difference quite clearly. So we've wiped that back. If I want to have more colour definition, I can just take back soft cloth, and I do find a soft cloth works better than a baby wipe. Don't know why, but I do. There we are. So I think, Chantal, you're asking me a little bit about how long is a piece of string. Once they are dry, they are permanent. So it depends on how hot your environment is. I would tend not to do a whole piece in one go. If it's a big canvas, I do a section, wipe that back, then do another section. So so that, you know, I don't have it sitting in and I've got control. So this is the black that I've got here, and again, that the black is a Pentart one, and I'm going to explain why I think you should have a black in your stash, because there isn't one in the Stamperia collection. So let's just wipe that back. So there we are. So here we've got, you know, the shades of the browns, orange, the sort of slightly yellow, the rusty colour, brown, umber and black across here. So you really have got lots of options with what you're doing, and you can wipe it back. But you can see the difference that it makes when it sits into all of that texture, which is why I think that's why I started with these pieces. So from there I'm going to move back to the Stamperia, because Stamperia has a grey tone and it's relatively dark. So there we are. We'll pop a little bit of that on there. We'll grab our cleaned brush so we don't mess up the colours. And so this is the brown, the grey. So if I put the black next to it, so that's the grey colour which we've got here. Yeah. Find me wet piece of cloth, and then we'll just wipe that back. Okay. So I think that the grey is a lovely colour. I like the black, but my preference is the grey for darkening. But I think you need the black in your life, and I'll explain that long term. So then what do we have? Well, we have some greens and some blues. So let's go with the greens and the blues. Agnes, I agree with you. I do think that they're pretty similar in consistency. They are like a gel. If you think about homemade jelly that you've made, you know, the packet stuff that we get in the UK. I don't know about the rest of the world, sorry. But if we go with that, then when it's sort of all partially set, that's a good consistency for what it feels like. Good morning, Sarah Lou. Thank you for joining me. Hello, Angela. Thank you. Good morning, Jane. That's lovely. So this is the green, and this gives a beautiful effect, as if something might have been left out in the garden and everything has a little loose covering of moss from just being sat and neglected. We all know that feeling through the winter. So then we've got some patina colours. So Pentart have what they describe as patina green, and they have patina blue. So here we are. So this is the patina green, and I actually think it's a beautiful turquoisey green, rather than necessarily something I consider to be green. I remember these are designed for antiquing, so they are muted colours. They're not muddy, but they are definitely muted colours along the way. So I'm sorry, Anthony, are we making you spend money by showing you what's going on and facilitating it? So that blue is lovely. and that's the patina green. Then we have clean brush time, otherwise we'll not see what's going on. Hello Eileen, sorry I didn't notice you coming in, so thank you very much for joining me this morning. So this is the patina blue from Pentart, and these are antiquing gels, so there we are. There we are. So we're just going to have a veritable rainbow, and then there we are. So we've wiped that back, and we've got that beautiful blue colour in amongst that. Let's lid that, because like any water-based product, if you leave it open to the atmosphere, particularly on a hot day, you're going to be in trouble. So the next colour is the turquoise vintage patina that we've got here. Hello Angela. So for those of you that don't know, I'm going to try to do a live most Friday mornings around about 10 o'clock in the morning. Just I'm doing this for my own sake, for developing my presenting skills. Feedback's positive, preferably by messenger, not in a public space, and preferably polite, because rudeness isn't acceptable in any format. But if and definitely constructive, so that's the intention, is that I will go live most just to demonstrate different products. So that is the turquoise that's here, and I think if we can see, we've got a green, we've got a proper blue, and then we've got a different shade of blue here. So yeah, so I think that, you know, when you look at it, there are definitely, each of these is different colours of them here. So rewash that, so that's that one. Then we have the next colour, and again I love this colour. It's the vintage patina dark blue, and it is truly beautiful. I have to say that I love it. I think it is such a nice colour. So these, you can see what I mean, it's sort of not a navy, it's not a royal, it's just, I love it. If anyone can think of a better description for tonality of it, then please let me know, because as I say, I think it is really, really stunning. So now we have, yeah, the different colours. I've wiped that off a little bit too firmly, so we'll do that. So you can see that if for no other reason you want the whole lot, it's because you have not quite a rainbow, because there isn't a dark red. Pentart, if you're listening, actually a burgundy red would be lovely, I think, but hey ho. So we've gone from yellow to orange to light brown to dark brown to black, grey, green, patina blue, turquoise, dark blue. So a veritable rainbow of colours. Now at the next point, the last one that is common to both of the channels, and I will pick up a clean brush for this, because otherwise yeah, I do want bespoke colours, and that's only because I can't make a red from any of these colours, Anthony. If I could make a red from them, then I would do so. So this is the Pentart white. I'll just get a little bit over there. So that's the Pentart white. We'll wipe that back, and so that we've done everything exactly the same, we've got the vintage patina white, and this is where I think perhaps you probably don't need one of each, because they're very similar. And my preference would always be to go, because white is a mixable colour, is to go for the bigger pot of the white. So do we need to just leave things as they are? And the answer is absolutely not at all. We can colour mix as we want to. So let us just add, let's go for a little bit of the turquoise. It could just as easily, I think, be the patina blue, and we'll add a little bit of the grey on top of that. They're quite pigment rich, so although they're translucent and you can see through the colours, actually you can. So here I've now got myself a custom softer bluey grey colour just by mixing them fresh together, and obviously you can change that as you want to. So we're going to, yeah, so I've now got a custom colour, and we're going to do the same with, again, with the black. So we're going to, we went with the turquoise. I do think that the joy of the pots is I can literally just lift out a tiny bit of, so I've got a little bit of the black here, and I'm going to mix the two together. I want a darker colour than that. I think it might be nice, so let's just add in a little bit more black up at the top. So I've now got a bluey grey black up there that I can shade through, and I want it paler, so let's add a little bit of the white down here, and then we'll take them through. Let's give that brush a little bit of a clean. So I've got that. So now I've got a paler colour through ombre through. So don't be afraid to colour mix to get the shade that is right for your project from doing that. So that is simple colour mixing. So if I pop that down to there, I've got one more heart sitting over here like this. So what else could we mix together? So I like my dark blue very much. I want a greeny blue, but I don't want that turquoise colour, so I'm going to pick up some patina blue here. You can tell that I'm drawn to these colours, can't you? And we're going to add some of that to here, and we're just going to mix it on. So I've got a different shade of blue here. I want to add a little bit of black, so I'm going to add a little bit of black up here. There we are. And we'll add a little bit of white down there. This is why I think that it's really important to have the blacks and the whites in your stash. So Andrew, I can't tell you whether they'll work on all surfaces, because I haven't tried them on all. They certainly work on painted surfaces. You know, so anything that has been primed, I can see no reason why they wouldn't work on most. So here we've got our shading from our darker through to our paler, and you play until your heart's content doing that. Do I want a bluey green now? So I'm going to take my dark blue Vintage Patina here, and I'm going to take my patina green. I'll grab, what have I got? They certainly work on painted resin. This is modelling paste. I've got a raw canvas and I've got a painted canvas here. So now I want to add, I know what I was going to do. I was going to make a bluey green. So let's add some of that up there. Didn't want to do that. There we are. We'll add a little bit of white down here. That can go in there, and we want it a more green colour than we've got. So let us add some of the patina green to there. Mix it all up. So here we are. So we're getting a different colour palette up here. But now we've got a mud on that brush, so we'll just clean that off. And then we're going to lift it down, so we've got a much more subtle colour here. So you can ombre and mix your colours, shades and tones, and the darker. So there we are. You pick the effect you're looking for and you go for it to suit yourself. So on hearty clay that's dry, that's a piece of hearty clay. There we are, we've got some hearty clay lurking there, so we'll have a show of that in a minute for you. That's sitting there. So would we like a different shade of green? Well, yellow and blue make green. I've not tried this one, so we could have a bit of pickle. So let's take that greeny blue, and let's take a little bit of the ochre. So I've got approximately equal volumes. Remember, you can shade as you want to, and we're going to get, I think, a muddy, so I've got too much brown in there relative to my amount of blue, but I have definitely got a different shade to the green that comes in the Pentart colours primarily. So we'll pop that over there. Do I want it a bit more yellow? Possibly not. So we were looking for antique vintage colours, but you can see that now I've got quite a pretty green there when it's spread out a little bit. So we've got from there. So this is about playing. There we are. You see, and here I've deliberately merged them at the bottom so you can layer your colours quite happily. There we are. And you'll take off different bits as you go. So I actually think that that combination works really quite nicely, putting those two together, and is different to the olive that we have. So what else can we go for? I think we might go for mixing the grey with a large dollop of the white. So we're going to mix those together, and again you've got a softer white, and remember you can have that then in any shade that you want. So we've gone through the basic colours, some colour mixing, simple colour mixing, and adding them together, which I think shows that the products will work together. They will work beautifully as they are, and that you can mix to your heart's content. The black and the white, I think, are really useful colours to have. Don't put your white cap on your black pot, because that's clearly not a great thing to do. From there, so hi Patricia, thank you. Yeah, they work perfectly, don't they? So let me just pop those in a pot, give them a little wriggle to add to them. So I've got, to me, that there are no floral colours here, so forgive me from that point of view. And I haven't got lots of them round, and I should have twigged that would work. But these are just air dry pieces of clay in actually a Casa Granada mould, I think, or it might be a and these are unprimed, so it'll get absorbed, I think, quite well. So there we are. She says, having put a spray bottle down, and now she can't see it. That's always helpful. It'll be somewhere that you want. So this is unprimed, unpainted, and you can see that it does white back quite happily. So yes, it will go onto the clay. I suspect that it will be better if you put it onto primed clay, and I've certainly done that. Let me grab some bits and pieces so that you can see some projects that we've got. So these will be blog posts. So these are clay that I've used the turquoise on, and also the rust, so it works perfectly, and they had been painted beforehand. And the leaves are were painted green, and then I've actually added the olive to these, and also some of the dark blue to get all of the detail in and then dry brush with white. So yes, clay pieces will work. Certainly on covered resin, painted covered resin, they work without any problem whatsoever. This is a piece of resin that was done for a different project, didn't get used on the project, so but let's just cover it and see where we go. So I use that blue because that's what we've got. I know flowers aren't blue, but you'll see what I mean by it will stick into all of the details. And there's actually some wax on this piece because, as I say, it was done prep for a different project. So let's cover. And one of the things is, if you want it in the recesses, and that's where its primary role is, I think, in this, or for shading, because they're beautiful colours to add to shade. If you're adding paints, you can just darken a paint down to put into the, you know, where you'd expect there to be a natural shadow, and then that will work nicely. So there we are. So let's just give that all. Remember, this is, as I say, was already painted. So let's just take this and pop that into here, and then we can wipe back. There we are. So it will sit in all of the nooks and the crannies, and you can wipe back as much as you want. So there we are. So, because obviously your fingers don't get into the tiny recesses or into all of the nooks and the crannies. So now we have a flower that was pinks and whites that's now actually subtle shades of blues and purples with the colours there. So it's helpful from that point of view. Now some of you will recognise this, because this is a piece I prepped for a Stamperia live quite a long time ago, and it's been sitting there because I didn't need to make two projects, so this one has just been sitting there unloved. Now these were aqua colour backgrounds and paint, so some of this may move. So let's just see what happens, because the effects I think are different depending on the colour surface that you're working with. So let's just pop some blobs of these onto here, and the dark blue. So there we are. So if we work from here, so I'm just going to add the dark blue to that area of my piece. So remember that this is on a vintage background already. It's got texture, it's got colour, but then I add some shading. I think the texture is maybe not as much as I want, so I might have taken more off than I really wanted to. So let's just add a little bit more, let it settle down a little bit longer. Yeah. So we're going for tonal changes here rather than necessarily all out completely changing the colour of what we're doing. And because this is a canvas, actually the patina is sitting into the texture of the canvas. So if I just literally wipe that off the texture, so now we have different shades of blue onto a blue background. So let's go with that. So this is the grey colour. So let's see what happens here on the blue. And remember, you can add them on anything. The base pieces were an off-white, a creamy white. So from Stamperia lovers, Bianco Latte. For Pentart lovers, it was their cream white. So we've added some black there, the greys. Lift it off. We've got some subtle shading coming in, and I can lift it off the texture, and I'm leaving it in my coloured background. I will definitely need a clean brush for the white to keep it clean. So there we have white. And I say these are on aqua colours, and some of those are not permanent when they're dry. But even with that, I'm getting some mixing, some colouring, gentle colouring. I wouldn't necessarily add wet paint to the pieces, but there we are. So in the background, I've now got a paler area completely from here. Excuse me. So what might we want to add now? Well, let's add some grey to our base. Let's add some rust to our base area, and I'm going to add the umbre, which is a really dark colour, over here, and we'll go with that. There we are. So let's see, so we've got the umbre here, so let's just cover that. And as I say, the whole purpose of this isn't to have something that's a project. I wouldn't necessarily choose to do the whole lot all in one project, but you can see by mixing, actually you can get quite a moody sky by doing that. So there we are. So we've gone from ochre brown paint to actually a much darker area here with the umbre. So that gives quite a nice effect from here. So here we are. This is the patina rust as opposed to the antiquing gel. So there we are. We'll add a little bit of that. I'll deliberately leave a gap in between so that you can see what the differences are, because sometimes I think it's quite hard to remember. Hello Letitia, thank you for joining us. So wipe this back, and I think one of the joys is that it means that actually you can start out with a piece that, you know, not like the colour very much, and then tweak it. So we see we've got that's a completely different colour there between what was the base and now with the added rust effect to it. So again, it's really about what's going on. Thank you, Angela. I just think that, you know, I see colour. I've had lots of friends who will say to me, does this colour work with that? And it never occurred to me that people didn't see colour particularly, and they didn't see form. And so I think it's quite helpful to have, for those of us that do instinctively see the two, for you to be able to just play. And that's all I'm doing. So that is the brown added to there. So again, we've got a different tone whatsoever. So don't like the brown base, you add grey, it mutes it and makes it a darker tone. Adding the brown, the umbre, makes it a very vintagey tone. Want it more pinky, more orangey, then the rust. Perhaps I wouldn't choose to use that for a stone floor, but again, it's about working with what you've got and where you go. So that was my intention for today, was just to have a little play with two products that are fairly new to the market, that might seem to be very similar. They certainly are in texture, they certainly are in the way that you use them. There's no question about it. And ask myself the question, do I need to buy both of them? Well, I think the answer is probably, with the exception of the white, because there's white in both options, the answer is very definitely yes, if you like that distressed, more vintage appeal to what you're doing. So do you have to get them all together? Absolutely not. If you know that you prefer the more darker tones, then I would go with the grey, the dark and the dark blue from in the vintage patinas. If you know that you want colour variation, then I would go with definitely the black antiquing gel and the white antiquing gel, because it's better value, bigger pot to add into the mixes. If you know that you like your more rusty colours, then I think the ochre rust will work well together, plus the black and the white. If you like your more patina colours, then the turquoise, patina blue and the patina green, plus and minus the white, black and the white, will also work quite well together. So I hope that that has been a useful activity this morning. That it will help you to decide what products to invest in, and it will encourage you to get them out of their pots if you already do have them in the pots. Now, in terms of the next live, it should be next Friday. I think probably next Friday at 10 o'clock in the morning. I have agreed to a crafting together with all brands live, and if that's on the same day I might move it, but I'll put a message up on my page to say if that's what I'm doing. And I think we might go look at some of the other antiquing products that are out there. So I'm thinking the Anthony's antiquing paste that most of us have in our packs. I'm thinking some finishing waxes. I'm thinking Umbra Patina. And I'm thinking Le Sur gels again, because I think that they offer lots of alternatives, and we'll do it in a similar format. I think we will just have some base pieces, and then I'll show you the different all of the different things that we can do with those. I know I haven't got all of the different colours of Le Sur gels, but I think that's again they're a stash that we might have in our sitting there, and actually they may be being neglected, so getting them out of the box might be a very helpful thing to do. So that's what we're going to do next. I think next time is we will concentrate on those. For those of you that are aware that I take Pentart products to Create and Craft in the UK, my next show for them is on the 24th of May. I've got shows at I think it's 9 AM in the morning, and we are going to be looking at crackle and antiquing pastes, and yes, they are different to waxes. So that's where I'm going with that, and I think probably the following week after that then we'll translate that into a class, a mini class on here showing those products. So that's all for now, ladies. Thank you very much for joining me this morning, and I wish you all a good weekend, and please stay safe. Here we are. So there we are.